Happy Monday! Woo! Welcome to ScreenJunkies Universe. It's a big day for us around here. We got a lot of news. Dan Murrell is here.
Hello.
I'm Roth, Cornet. That's Spencer Gilbert.
Hey-o.
Joe Starr is here covering the hair because we haven't earned it this week yet. We have to earn it together. We don't get it right away.
Sometimes I just want to be me and not hide behind a supernatural wall, you know?
No, that's fair.
Had it.
Just regular Joe.
Yeah.
Just a regular Joe, Joan around, talking about The Incredibles 2, which has earned the predicted gazillion dollars. What could stop Incredibles 3? We'll talk about that. More from the Transformers. We got some movie trivia. But first, we have some breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to need to discuss. For this and more, we're going to go to our chief Snyder Cut correspondent, Dan Murrell.
Oh, that's right, Roth. Thank you very much. Welcome to day 214 of our coverage on the Snyder Cut. Like Glenn from The Walking Dead, you thought it was gone, but it was just under a dumpster.
Faking and under a dumpster.
Did you get my petition?
The Snyder Cut is back in the news this week after a storyboard artist on Justice League named Jay Oliva said on Twitter that he hit back against reports that there was no coherent version of Zack Snyder's original vision of Justice League, saying that 99% of the scenes that Zack Snyder envisioned were put into some form of timeline, unfinished, with no visual effects and minus any planned reshoots that Zack Snyder had planned to do. So if you are a fan of Jason Momoa standing in front of a green screen saying, "My man," I guess you're in luck.
Well, in the Snyder Cut, he says, "My dark, twisted fantasy."
Either way, there's some great uncolor corrected, non-VFX, non-reshot shots of Jason Momoa and your favorite superheroes in a timeline somewhere in an archive at Warner Brothers. And because it's a new day at Time Warner, they were just they're merging now with AT&T. Fans have now decided, based on this new announcement, hot news, that it is time to lobby their new owners. One particular fan and many fans are now contacting AT&T, where they hit a wall with Warner. They are now hoping that their new overlords will see fit to release the Snyder Cut.
Call AT&T customer support. Keep hitting 0 till you get a really disanced human being on the line.
Well, something like that happened.
Something like that happened.
A fan named Chris tweeted, "Hey, at ATT."
At ATT Care.
Yes.
Which is customer service
For your phone.
Hey, at ATT, there's millions of ravenous fans who want you to hashtag release the Snyder Cut. So if you could go ahead and release that tomorrow, it would be a really a sign of good faith to the fans.
Is he Lumberg?
Hashtag release the Snyder Cut.
So if you could go ahead.
To their credit, at ATT Cares responded, "Hey, Chris, thanks for your feedback. We are always looking to expand. We are always hear you."
And you know
AT&T is on the case. So if you're a fan of that movie that came out 7 months ago and was a horrific failure at the box office, causing their entire superhero division to go into turnaround at Warner Brothers, you're still out of luck because this will never be released.
Well, no, this is worth parsing because, again, when we say there's no Snyder Cut, we mean that there's nothing that is close to a movie that resembles a Snyder Cut. But
That's
correct. I think what we speculated was that there is a timeline.
There's
of
a
what
Snyder
he shot.
assembly.
There's a Snyder assembly. That's the way to put it.
There's an assembly cut, but the assembly cut, look, it wouldn't do, if you're really a fan of Zack Snyder, then it wouldn't do him any favors to have that released publicly, because it wouldn't do any filmmaker any favors to have that released publicly. It's like a third of the way done.
It's not complete in
It's
any
not
shape
complete.
or form.
And I don't know if you guys have ever seen any cuts of movies where the VFX are not done and all of that.
It's a little touch and go.
But like very few people in the world can accurately look at a rough cut of anything and not go, "Oh, we should probably have a graphic there." Like, yeah, it says temp graphic.
Let me, you know what? If you're a hardcore Zack Snyder DCEU fan, you don't want the Snyder Cut because it's going to look like garbage and it's going to cost so many millions of dollars to finish it that it's not worth it.
Yeah.
What you want is the Snyder script. You want to just read the story that he had.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Release the Snyder script.
That's much more.
Release the Snyder script.
You know what? Like
That's much more. That's what
you should be doing.
That's true.
We're always here to hear you also, Spencer, and that's a really good point. But you know what? If you're going to rally people for things, there's a lot of things to rally people for these days rather than calling AT&T customer service. There's probably a lot of other things any one of us could do with our time. But if you want to do that and you really want to see the work of your favorite director, that's understandable. Ask for the script. They're never going to release that cut. They're never going to release that
Yeah,
cut because it would look bad on them too. It's unfinished.
Break up with The Last Jedi and break up with Justice
But
League. It's time to move on.
I tell you what,
for all of us to move on.
Maybe it would have been the most brilliant movie ever made. Who knows?
And if you read the script, you can see it in your mind, and it's
Yeah.
going to look better than boxy 3D art visual effects.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, if with Marvel not doing that their Hall H, if DC really wanted to knock out a home run, you do a stage reading of the Snyder script in Hall H. People will never forget it.
The whole thing?
yeah, but here's
The whole 4.5 dark hours of it.
here's the thing is like maybe, and then you say that this only happens at Comic-Con, that kind of thing. But here's the thing. This is a no-win situation for Warner Brothers. If they release a script, if they do a reading of a script, they're never going to release the cut for the reasons that we've said, which is like it wouldn't do anyone any favors to do that. Even if it was a great film, it's not done and it won't look the way you or sound. The sound effects aren't done.
Well, we're going to have
That's
to
one
go
of the biggest parts of
around.
movies.
I'd like to update my request. Somebody leak the Snyder script. That's what
Yeah,
you should be asking. Like Deadpool had
Tweet
the test
Tim Miller.
footage. Yeah,
Yeah,
tweet
no.
Tim Miller and get somebody who
Okay.
was involved to leak the script, because DC's not going to do
On
it.
the one hand, here's the way that goes. On the one hand, they release a script and people go, "Oh, like this is terrible. Why did you ever greenlight this in the
it's
first
fine.
place?" Or on the other hand, they go, "This is brilliant. It's so much better than the movie that we saw. Why would you have gone the direction you did go?" It's a lose-lose for them.
Well, that's why it needs to be somebody like a mole on the inside.
Yeah.
Someone with like an early draft needs to.
Someone whose name is not Wen Batfleck.
When Batfleck.
Yep.
All right.
The Snyder Cut's
Oh,
like
when.
snakes. The Snyder Cut's like snakes on a plane. It sounds appealing. You think you want it. And then when you see it, you're like, oh, wow, this is
I am actually
what I
more
expected.
interested in seeing the script, at least, and what he had in mind, than I would be in
Script, sure.
rewatching Justice League.
Sure. But the Snyder Cut, you don't. If I'm not being flippant or jokey here, like you don't. If you're a fan of, you don't want to see this. It's not ever going
I'm
to
not
be
either.
a
I'm
movie,
saying the same
and it's
thing.
never going to be
Yeah.
finished, and it's not going to be a representative of even what the final movie
Look
would
up
have or
the
could have or should have been.
look up the alternate ending to Blade to see what unfinished CGI looks like.
Yeah.
And it's expect that level of quality.
It's like when they dig up those very early auditions for actors you love, and you're like, "Damn,
Oh.
that was terrible." Like, or releasing dailies that show how much the editor is helping performances and things. You're not doing people you love any favors.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
But good on you.
that's our breaking news.
There's
Day 214
of
of
the
Snyder
Snyder
Cut
Cut.
watch.
The Iran
continues.
hostage crisis. But
and again,
Definitely darker.
yeah, and much more desaturated.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot flatter in terms of the color palette. So The Incredibles 2, speaking of shiny and bright color palettes, we just want to say this. We understand if you want to see the Snyder Cut because you're a big fan. We're not making fun of you. Love, 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 love. Batman, Batman, Batman.
nicely done, Roth.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of the Snyder Cut itself, only because it's an objectively unfinished, unwatchable, and not because of content, because it is not coherent.
They're going to yell at you anyway.
The
That's
best
whatever.
part of this is that we're talking about DC and just showing pictures of it.
right?
Sounds about right. But I think a totally rational and more interesting to me demand is to leak the Snyder script rather than release the Snyder cut.
Sure, that's also not going to happen though. Probably.
What if?
You never know.
And
What
if
if you
somebody
leak-
does it, it was not because he said
It was
to
not because of Spencer.
lawyers.
But aren't they like constantly reshuffling the execs there? Like someone's got a copy of it.
yeah, somebody.
Yeah, but don't you think that they probably would rather focus on the future of DC? Like they're going in a completely different direction now.
But it's like an FU, like they laid you off. Like, all right, well, I'm gonna give these
Yeah, but
rabid
if you
fanboys
love
the.
Batman,
Yeah.
and I know you do.
I like Batman.
I know you like
He's a
Batman.
little fascist, but he's cool.
Well, of all the fascists,
Yeah.
aren't they all a little fascist? Let's talk about this later.
If it did leak, you know who my money would be on?
What?
Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, he doesn't
Yeah.
give a.
Everybody knows he
Sneaky.
leaks like a sieve.
He's
Yeah,
being
he
prepared,
does.
man.
And he's like an
Being prepared.
eccentric old actor with like who carries around. I found this out recently. He carries around his little dog with him everywhere. And your little dog too, Jeremy. So this is my point: is if you're a fan of these characters, they're clearly like have this new vision and they're going this new direction. That's exciting. Let's focus there. Let's
There we
focus
go.
on
We'll
the
see.
future.
We shall see.
The future is bright. Incredibles 2. opened huge this weekend, estimated $180 million domestically. Not surprisingly, it has made all of the money. It will continue to make all of the money. This is record for an animated film. It's also one of the top 10 openings of all time. We will talk about this later today in charting.
So many charts.
So the big question is then, what about that Incredibles 3? Is it going to take another 14 years? What's going on? Director Brad Bird, this is via EW and Box Office Mojo, talked about that, and it said that basically he was mostly interested in Jack's powers and the role reversal for Bob and Helen that brought him back to the movie. Pixar pointedly didn't want to force it, so that's probably partially why it took 14 years to get done. They're not going to continue making Incredibles movies without Brad Bird, which is pretty cool. But when he talked about whether he'd come back or not, he seemed pretty hesitant. He's talked in the past about he's not super interested in returning to things like Mission Impossible or Iron Giant, etc. And he also spoke very openly about basically
Nice.
It was like I was going to say something so seriously
Spill
that
some
at first
tea,
I had
Roth.
to.
Spill that tea.
I was about, but you know what? The metaphor works, and here's why. Because he was like, I don't like what's going on in culture with fandom. They're being pushed. Creators are being pushed to return to their creations, and then they're lambasted for doing so. No freaking thanks, essentially. I don't know if he said it exactly like that. I'm paraphrasing, but he was kind of spilling
I
the
think
tea
you can
on
quote
the
Brad
fandom.
Bird on No Friggin' Thanks.
Yeah, no freaking thanks. He was just not into it. And so that was one of the reasons that he's hesitant about returning for a third one, which I thought was notable. Samuel Jackson, on the other hand, who voices Frozone, is all about it. He wants to see a prequel on Frozone and Mr. Incredibles, an origin story for them. He said, quote, "That would be cool to know why Lucius and this lovable uncle is this lovable uncle figure, and how long he and Bob have known each other, and what kind of things they did they get into. Did they meet because they were superheroes? Did they meet one night by accident, or did they meet just naturally and come to find out, oh hey, you're a hero too?"
Sam, that's a really boring idea.
Okay,
My favorite is when actors pitch
I know.
sequels for themselves to star in.
I know.
I
They were
admire
like-
the hustle, but at the same time,
I need to see the movie where we find out why Lucius is nice.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, so Sophia Bush, who voiced Void, who was one of the favorite characters to come out of this movie, said it's a great, talked about the end of the movie between, and if you've seen it, this is no real spoiler, but there's a moment between Violet and Void. And she says it's a great moment for those girls to start hopefully collaborating, whether that's in the continuum left after the second movie or in an eventual third, which I think we're all pulling for, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, of course, every actor that's asked about they're like, well, here's what I would do. I'd make a Void movie, you know?
Yeah.
And I happen to voice Void, but objectively speaking, I was the coolest thing to come out of this movie. But she kind of was, to be fair. What do you guys think of all this? Do we want an Incredibles 3? Do any of those ideas sound good? Joe's already given some of his thoughts on Sam's ideas. And what do you think about the fact that Brad Bird is noting how difficult it is for creators right now because they do something that they think the fans are asking for, and then it's an attack because they didn't do it the exact way. It's as if I have it. It's as if every fan is Sam and Sophia, and we all have the movie that we're picturing that is perfectly tailored to our wants and desires and needs. And when it's not that movie, we're infuriated, so he can't win. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. My have it both ways response to this is, why insist on it being a movie? This is such a great setting, and these are such great characters, but maybe there aren't as many feature stories to tell in that it's like something with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and someone learns a lesson and changes and stuff like that. Like, why not make the Saturday morning cartoon Incredibles? Why not make one of those streaming service series Incredibles? Like, if you just love this kind of Silver Age James Bond-y comic book world, make a TV show. Make a cartoon. You know, have the Frozone episode, have the Void episode, have the one where Jack goes to college or whatever in the alternate future. But
Does
I
he
think
still look like a baby?
yes.
So he's like Stewie?
He's a boss baby.
Yeah, boss baby.
Okay.
But Pixar's really good at this, and I hope it stays that way, of not making a movie until they have an idea for one.
Mm-hmm.
And if Brad Bird doesn't have, well, yeah, you're right.
Most of the time.
Some of the time. But in this case,
Well,
you
they get
wait
to do
for
it
them.
here because they don't do it with Cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
Toy
Cars
Story.
was...
Thank you for your sacrifice, Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, and yeah, Finding Dory and stuff like that. But movie ideas are different from universes and from settings, and you got to be patient because they have to happen naturally and they have to fit. And if you want more Incredibles, just make a spinoff.
You know what's funny is that I was listening this morning on the radio. They were doing a tour of this guy who is a practical effects artist that makes specifically superhero suits. And he was talking about the conflated timelines. And this is just one aspect. He said on a Batman movie in the past, you would have like 8 months to a year. Now you have 3 months. And I just thought that that represented the conflated timelines for every aspect of development. And it seems like the exception to that rule is animated movies out of Pixar, right?
Well, I mean, it feels like it's such a massive investment. Like, if you don't, the interesting thing about animation, you've got to know that you're going to stick the landing before you even get started, because you've got to go in with something that, like, okay, next 5 years is us animating this and working towards this. And once you hit a certain point, like, this can't change that much. Like, reshoots aren't going to happen.
Very little improv in animation.
Yeah.
Well,
I just want to say I just misused conflated, reduced. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, but even then, Disney. I saw an interview with Brad Bird over the weekend. Disney cut a year off their production schedule for this film. They're like, you have 3.5 years, and they're like, never mind, you have 2.5 years. It's like, oh, like in animation, that's massive.
Very short.
Yeah.
I mean, like that is like 2.5 years to make an animated movie, as like intricate as far as design goes and well put together as The Incredibles is. That is an insanely short amount of time.
It's a lot of people not sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. That's people working around the clock. That gets into visual effects, which is a whole other side of the business that you know what's happening with there. And the people are just like, the production cycles, what you said, Roth, they're so insane right now. It's a wonder we get any good movies at all, because everything now is just like, well, we staked out our release date 4 years ago, so quickly. I don't care if you're done. You got to, well, now you shoot quickly and now reshoot quickly. Like, you know, some people have managed it. Most people haven't. But I'm with Brad Bird. Like, I don't, if you nail it once and you don't really have a compelling reason to come back, or even if you do, like guys that think that they do have a good reason to come back, why would you? Because you're just tempting fate. If you somehow miraculously made a great movie, why would you ever want to come back and be like, I can do it again? He got Incredibles 2. I thought it was really good. I liked it a lot. Why would you now, even think about going back if you don't have a great take and being like, I just want to do something?
Well, you only come back if you only come
Yeah.
back if you are excited and if you
Right.
do have a great take. And they've shown that restraint with Toy Story and The Incredibles, and maybe not so much with the other franchises.
I worry about Toy Story 4.
Some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it sort of depends. But to your point, I have two questions for us. To your point about the streaming service, that seems like a viable option, right? Especially if you want people to sign up for it. That's a temptation. That's certainly a reason. It's an incentive. But if they're not going to do it without Brad Bird, then what?
Well, what are you going to do? Force Brad Bird at gunpoint to like crank out 26 episodes? Like, that's what I'm saying is like, they're
If you want to make a successful streaming service, you are.
Yeah, I don't know. Leave Brad Bird alone. Leave Brad Bird alone if he doesn't want to make more Incredibles. But if like corporate is saying we need more stuff in this world, don't sully the movie franchise. Go in another direction. Do some kind of like cool retro animated 60s set Incredibles cartoon.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about what he said in terms of what he's noticed about fandom, about like sort of pressuring creators to return to things and then being mad about it?
I'm hoping that in 14 years, when Incredibles 3 does come out, we've gotten to the point where instead of covering stuff like that, in terms of like, well, these really gross, angry fans are saying this, we've stamped it out by being like, that's gross and we don't need to acknowledge you anymore. Like, bye, and pull the microphone from it, and that gets a little better. So that Brad Bird can safely make Incredibles 3 without a bunch of sad kids screaming at him.
Well, it's not even that. It's also like, I remember when Lord of the Rings came out, all I could think about was like, oh my God, how amazing would it be if Peter Jackson went back and made The Hobbit? And like, while Ian McKellen is still alive, get him to redo Gandalf and go make The Hobbit. Like, oh, that would be amazing. That would be incredible. And then I heard that he was
poor
actually...
sweet Dan.
Well, no, I mean, because it sounds like a good idea. And I think given the right amount of preparation, it probably could have been. But then you see when it happens in reality, which is that he did do it, but it wasn't under ideal circumstances. Guillermo del Toro couldn't do it. There was a whole legal thing.
He clearly didn't care.
He
I mean, not
did.
care, but
no, but he was put in a
burnt out.
position.
Yeah.
He was burnt out.
He was put in a position where the studio came to him and essentially said, if you don't make these movies, it'll never get done.
Yeah.
So you now have to choose
Yeah.
between, do you want your vision to be carried on, with The Hobbit? Do you want to see this become a reality, or do you want it to never happen? And he said, okay, I guess I'll do it. And you can tell they didn't have the preparation time. The movies don't look the same. They had to do all that green screen stuff that if they'd had 4 more years to make it, he could have done all that climbing mountains and shit that he did.
They
when he was
added
making
another
Lord of the
movie.
Rings. They added another movie to it. And it just didn't feel it. And it felt like that. And it's the thing of just like, it's not even just good enough to have a creator that comes back and does it. Like, it's important that they be excited and given the tools to do it the way that they want to do it. If you force people into it, a lot of times you're just not going to get the result that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, we've heard that before, that Peter Jackson, not that he didn't care.
Yeah,
but
so
that
it's
he was
burned
just
out. He was tired. Yeah.
He was burnt out and tired. He didn't want to direct it. It's a far different thing. It's to direct a movie which is an insane thing to do, really.
Especially a big visual effects
Yeah.
on location in a green screen in
Yeah.
New Zealand
That
blockbuster.
the studio continues to make bigger and bigger. Like, now it's 3 movies.
You know what we are going to get
Okay.
more of, though? What franchise we're going to get more of, Joe Starr?
Is it the Transformers?
It's where your little mechanical heart lives.
Robots.
Yay.
So if Bumblebee succeeds, guess which one would be next? It's on your sheet. It's Optimus.
Oh, good.
This is via EWN/film. So speaking with EW in a piece about Bumblebee, producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura was talking about what they were going to do next, but also about deciding to move in this direction with Bumblebee even before The Last Night crashed and burned at the box office. He said, quote, "We were headed down the Bumblebee path well before the release of the last Transformers. We had felt that with the 5th movie, we had sort of run out of room to where to take it." Yeah, that's why you had Merlin in it.
Yeah, exactly. And you left it open to an obvious sequel at the end.
Like-
They literally just should have said to be continued at the end of The Last Night. Sure. Sorry.
I'd probably blacked out by then. How did the last one end?
It was literally like Unicron's taking over Earth. Bum bum bum.
Oh, yeah, it was like the tendril
Yeah,
cut. Yeah,
like
yeah.
they
Oh,
literally just started the next movie at the end. Like, nah, we didn't know where to go with it. Yeah, you did. That's such
And then I
BS.
think-
Can we just do a slow push-in on Joe's infinite sadness? Because no one cares more about the Transformers than Joe. Like, literally.
Not at this desk, that's for sure.
Nope.
So he added that they've gotten a lot of feedback from fans that wanted them to do a deep dive on 1 or 2 of the robots because they wanted to get to know them better. Bumblebee was selected because he's such a loved figure and he's also more emotional than Optimus. Those were the 2 likely candidates. Optimus, and it's funny, Billy and I were talking in the car, and the minute he mentioned Optimus, I was like, that makes no sense. Optimus kind of like comes in and dads you for a minute and then leaves, and like can't have a whole movie of that. And he said,
But he used to be a shy little nerd at Transformers High School.
is that what happened? So
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
here's what he said about Optimus. He said, quote, "He's a stoic leader and you can count on him, whereas Bumblebee is the one who's more emotionally volatile. He has lots of ups and downs. So it seemed like the best character to try for zeroing in on one Autobot." Why don't we just do a Megatron? Like, what made
Why not?
Megatron
Yeah.
evil?
Plenty.
So anyway, he said it'd be a very different kind of movie than a Bumblebee movie, but equally interesting to do an Optimus movie, which they will do if Bumblebee does well. Does it seem weird for him to say, yeah, Optimus didn't really make sense for a solo movie, but we'll definitely do it if this one makes money?
All right,
If
guys.
only they had some kind of, let's say, recent example of a studio doing a solo movie.
Let's see.
Like a solo movie about a
Solo
character
movie.
that was maybe a fan favorite,
Yeah,
but
that one
perhaps didn't make the most
works
sense for
with
their
the
own
ensemble.
movie.
Yeah.
If I mean,
I can't
God,
think
these
of a
solo
solo.
movies are
I
so
can't think
hard.
of a solo one.
I don't know.
Guys, here's why F these movies.
Really?
We've gotten a lot of feedback from the fans that they wanted us to do a deep dive on 1 or 2 of the robots. It's Transformers movie. I want you to do a deep dive on a shitload of robots. There's like 800,000 robots. You could do a deep dive on all of them. We wanted to get fans wanted to get to know one.
Mudflap.
Look,
Skids.
Look, fans wanted to get to know them better. Yeah, after 6 movies, I would like to know something about the characters that are Transformers in your franchise called Transformers. Bumblebee was selected because he's a beloved figure, and he's more emotional than Optimus. If you're a movie writer and you can't just take a character and make them interesting or give them emotions, you're a bad writer. It's a problem that in 5 movies they're like, that one has emotions and is interesting, so it's probably that one. They've had probably 80 robots in these
They
movies.
also have to write dialogue for him.
Yeah,
They can express. Bumblebee can express his emotions in
Right.
song.
Did they write the dialogue first, then clear the samples? How does that work?
Any of
good
us
question.
also can't believe they're still
would be more
sticking with
interesting
it.
if we expressed our feelings solely in really catchy pop songs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that there's going to be a good Rickroll in the in the new one.
You don't think the trailer looks good?
I thought the trailer looked neat. Look,
I did.
Look,
I
as
think
the-
best,
I like the
like,
trailer.
best thing
as
Transformers ever done.
as the worst, aka the guy who's like, this Star Wars movie looks bad, but I sure liked the Star Wars thing, and I'll buy the Lego sets for Solo. I definitely looked at this one and was like, Bumblebee looks more like Bumblebee, and Starscream was the right colors. Eee! And so I'll definitely come out being like, yay! And maybe Stan Bush will do a song, and I'll go, woo! Will it be a good movie? I don't know. I'm part of the problem.
But
That was an amazing stream of consciousness.
Thank you.
That was a window into Joe's mind and soul. We should put you in hats more often. What were we gonna say, Dan?
putting the Transformers aside, let's say you're doing Ninja Turtles. Obviously, yes, your first spinoff is going to be Michelangelo the movie. He's the fun Ninja Turtle. He spouts off the one-liners. He's the fan favorite. Your next Ninja Turtle movie cannot be Leonardo the movie, because Leonardo, while the leader and key to the team, is the objectively most boring Ninja
character.
Turtle.
Yeah.
He is the worst character.
Don't at me, Leonardo fans.
Listen, when we played Leonardo and when I was a kid, I always was Leonardo because I was a boring kid and I liked playing the boring character of Leonardo. I let all my other more interesting friends do Michelangelo and Raphael.
He's
Sometimes
Michelangelo.
Donatello.
Who is he?
He's Raphael.
He's Raphael.
It's easily Raphael.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So rude. But cool.
I'm probably Danny, the kid that hides out in their hideout in the first movie, eating their food and running away from his dad.
Yeah.
And Billy's Sam Rockwell.
I'm like the real life version of April O'Neil,
Oh.
where journalists eat food and aren't models. Go ahead.
But yeah, no, to
Get
say
you a
that
yellow
like
jumpsuit.
it's just like if they get things back on track with Bumblebee, if they do make the decision to make Optimus Prime the next spinoff movie, then I think they have just automatically undone every bit of progress they might have done, because I love Optimus Prime. Bring him into these other movies maybe, but 60% of his dialogue is just him saying, I am Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
He's a great leader, but he's not a great, interesting
And
character.
here's the thing, we're going into X-Men movie territory to me now, because is this Bumblebee movie a new thing?
No.
Because if then if there's an Optimus Prime movie and they're like, here's all this cool prequel stuff, I'm like, I don't care, because I know that this leads to 5 movies where he just murders everyone left and right and says, I am Optimus Prime 170 times, so who cares? It's the same as Solo, almost, where it's like, sure, you can give him an arc. He can be a cop that works for a corrupt government that's friends with Megatron, and they have a weird Professor X Magneto split up. That's what happens in the current comics, and it's really cool. But I still know that he ends up just being this weird guy that kills people and just says his name over and over
So
again.
you'd rather just see a full reboot?
Yes. Oh, God, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see Bumblebee, and then maybe we will give Joe his reboot. We decide the things here at this table.
Right here.
Guess what's coming out this week, Dan?
Oh,
Yeah, it's time.
that's the only sound that I have.
Jurassic World 2. In honor of the arrival of Jurassic World 2.
All the Transformers weight just went over there and turned into a dinosaur.
I know. It was great to have that weight taken off my shoulders
What's
and on the other
Spencer's
side of the
infinite
table.
sadness? What's the thing that will spark your... what are you attached to enough?
I support the people
Simpsons?
behind the things, not the things themselves. So if you
Shut up, nerd.
Yeah, wow. Look at Mr. Humanity over
Look,
here.
if you get I'm excited for a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie, but I'm not excited for a blah 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 Star Trek movie. There are people behind all the toys. There are human beings, and they're the ones actually making it. The things don't exist, but the people do.
I was going to
support
go
them.
to a place about where the toys are made and who is
and
making
people
them.
make those too. And they're hopefully
And
have some
instead-
time to watch SJU today.
Instead,
on your
I'm going
break.
to
Hey, guys.
introduce Jurassic Week.
Oh.
Oh, that's a fancy graphic.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Well, it's not really.
No, that's
Okay,
pretty
well,
good.
no, I liked it. I liked
liked
it. Thank you, JT.
Yeah.
So, in honor of Jurassic Week, we have a little game for you guys. Name that dinosaur. We're going to
no.
show you an image of a fictional dinosaur. You're going to name the movie that it comes from. If you guys can't name it, then we're going to ask for a little help from the chat, see if they can help us
We're doing
out.
species name or character name?
Oh, we don't know the
No
species.
dinosaurs
so I'm
have
not a
character names.
paleontologist.
Well, you both
Except
are
for
saying
Blue.
different things.
Yeah. No, we're going to name the movie that it's in.
Just
Okay.
the movie.
Just the movie.
Okay. Got it.
Just
Ready.
the movie. Ready? Number one.
Oh, this is- oh, sorry, I thought this-
something Rex.
Theodore
What
Theodore
are you
Rex.
talking about? You love that. I thought Spencer had that one.
I said
for
Thea
sure.
something Rex. That counts.
Who said it first?
Dan said
Dan.
the full
Theodore
sentence.
Rex. Yeah. So I thought this was from the Jurassic Park movies. This
No,
is
no,
much
no.
more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's any given fictional dinosaur. So
The
there we
funny
go.
thing about that movie is his tail keeps hitting stuff. By
Oh,
accident.
and they don't want it to be. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the funny part.
I've actually not seen it. You guys have all seen it, right?
No,
I got
never
about
seen
20
it.
minutes in and I kind of rage quit out of that one.
All right.
Couldn't deal anymore. Yeah.
Number two. This one's harder by a lot, in my opinion.
Is that a
Lost World?
Compy from the Lost World?
No.
Is that from the movie Dinosaur? The
No.
Disney movie Dinosaur?
What is
Okay,
that?
so I'll give you a hint. It's from a director that I love his early work, and then if you make me talk about his last couple of movies, I rage out and
Is
go
that from
crazy.
Noah? Is that from Darren Aronofsky's Noah?
So
Oh,
really,
no. Terrence Malick. The
Tree of
Sean
Life.
Penn walking through
Nice.
the... Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Sean Penn on the beach.
Tree of
You're
Life.
both right.
Brad Pitt
Tree
by
of
a
Li-
tree.
I will accept Brad Pitt by a tree. I will accept Sean Penn
Penn at the
walking on the
beach.
beach. I will accept Tree of Life.
Nice pull.
Everybody's
I haven't
right.
seen Tree of Life, but once you said Malik, I was like,
Yeah.
the things people said about Tree of Life, yeah, that fits.
This one Billy thinks is the hardest. All right, ready?
That's Land
Land of
Before
Lost.
Time, right?
Oh, sorry.
That's-
Land Before Time.
That's what I thought. No,
No?
but it's Disney
It's
animated classic
Is it,
Wow.
that
Is it
a
Dinos-
lot of kids go to
is it
in high
Fantasia?
school. Yes,
Fantasia?
Fantasia.
Really?
I don't remember that from Fantasia.
Fantasia
Yeah.
2000.
Crazy stuff in Fantasia.
No, it's OG Fantasia.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
OG
Wow.
Fantasia. There you have it. Jurassic Week, in which we are going to count down by accident all of the movies that Dan would rather see than Jurassic World. Yeah.
Fantasia, yeah.
Theodore Rex.
Life.
Tree of Life and
Theodore Rex.
Theodore Rex. Well,
Those are some tough choices.
We didn't say it was going to be easy. We will be back tomorrow. We were going to do some fan questions today, but we'll sprinkle it throughout the week. We have a couple of good ones here. I want you guys to think about this for tomorrow. We won't answer it today. Molly asks, Ocean's 8 themed question. If you were in a heist crew, what would your role be? What is your unique set of skills? I guess that are applicable to a heist. So think about that. We'll answer that tomorrow. Today, we have Charting with Dan, which we will dive into The Incredibles and all there is.
So much there to chart.
Many charts. You can watch his video about Cinema Score from this weekend. Check that out. That's a great one. You can watch an update on what's happening over at the Disney, in which Billy and I talked to Mr. Richard Rushfield of The Ankler. Got some inside scoops. There's Honest Trailers and Honest Trailers commentaries tomorrow. And on this Thursday, we have a very special Kill Tony movie fights featuring Jeremiah Watkins, Brian Redban, and Tony Hinchcliffe. Very excited about that. All of the comedians, lots of the funny. Bye. Dinosaurs.